Welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, thank you for joining me. As you hear, I'm sitting outside on this little seat I found in the middle of a forestry area. The sun is shining, it's very peaceful, the birds are singing, and I just needed to come outside and enjoy this peaceful environment and inhale the oxygen and fresh air and just be at one with the surroundings. Today I want to talk about something that has come to light, and it's triggered from my personal experience. You know, the lesson that you learn, that it's a bit painful, and then you forget about it and you move on, and then it comes to light again. And that is the reminder that perhaps many of us have been told to choose our friends wisely, or be careful of the company that we keep. And for different reasons, there's judgmental, there's ideals, family values, people wanted to keep things very close to their chest, people who live really quiet lives, people who don't want to be tempted to go somewhere where they don't want to go, or whatever reason. But I'm going to talk about this trend on the internet where people are connecting as friends, and all of a sudden, particularly people of the opposite gender, want to talk to you as if they're your best friend, and hitting on women and saying my dearest friend, and even shaming women to almost pressure them to talk to this individual, or people who are just being a little bit over familiar when you wouldn't normally do that in real life. You would get to know people, you might be very open in real life, but you have that real connection face to face with somebody, and you pick up vibes, and unless you are intuitive and you're using your senses, and extrasensory perception can be enhanced when you're online, because you rely on your intuition. What you don't have is the tone of voice. You don't have the environment that somebody is speaking from. You don't know if they've got an agenda or no agenda at all. But a good place is to start is not to have an agenda yourself. I'm quite happy to use Facebook, and while I've vented at times over years about my personal circumstances, where I was caught in the horrendous legal situation that's never got resolved, by the way, only to discover there's actually quite a complex situation behind the scenes, and it looks like there's no intention, and there was never any intention to sort it out. If anything, there's been blocks that have been put into place. And there's big questions because somebody spoke to somebody and claimed to be a friend, and that person obviously didn't know me well enough to realise the truth of my life, and that I actually value my privacy. I value time that when I'm ill, now people do different things, when I'm ill I need to rest, perhaps sleep a lot. If I'm full of a cold or flu, I'm whacked out for quite a while. It takes me a long time to get over stuff. And particularly in winter time, I don't really like the cold, so I'm not venturing out. And we don't have this environment, although it's beautiful when it's snowing. But the assumption, because you stay at home and you might chat on the phone, you might be online, you might read, listen to music, you might be studying, doing whatever, minding your own business from the world. And from the outside in, they can't quite make out what that person is doing and what they're thinking and feeling, and they jump to conclusions. And they get the conclusions wrong. Now, I was in a situation where, for many years, my former next door neighbour's partner, who was heavily drinking all day and even outside with a beer can, peering through my window, which I found extremely odd. Obviously invasive, very uncomfortable. And he did it more so when I had visitors, and my visitors were becoming very distressed by it. I had elderly visitors that I used to invite to my home, my do-good deed, to do a ladies' afternoon and early evening that usually often got a bit late, because some of these elderly ones, they like to stay up till 2, 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and gone are those days when I can do that like before. But if you're frightened of somebody, or somebody's intimidating you and they're deliberately trying to scare you, you hope that they'll just go away, and they don't. Now, my friends knew about this situation, but I'm rather concerned that somebody saw my retreating and being by myself, and obviously they didn't see my comings or going, or who I was associating with, or where I was going, because basically, 1, it was none of their business, and 2, they weren't my friend to know. And if they were my friend, they would have known and possibly been invited to join in too. And when people masquerade as being friends, when there's actually a very volatile, dangerous situation, and it causes a spiral of events that leaves you intuitively knowing something is very wrong, but nobody's actually being protected. For instance, it could have been the social worker next door who was the partner of the drunk that called up saying she was my friend when we've never even had a cup of coffee together. I really don't know. What I'm going to say is that especially people who work for the authorities, and I'm a trained health professional, especially work in the authorities and they come in as do-gooders, and they're trying to assess, does somebody own their own home, and are they alone, and maybe they're sort of like targeting it out. Well, eventually, sooner or later, they might want to be taken into care, and of course the home will pay for that. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can bugger off, because I don't want these people. If I've got a social worker that never once knocked on my door after years of abuse and disrespect from her, and then later from her partner, these aren't people that I want in my life, and these aren't people that I want even close to my door. But the complicated matter in this case was her children adored me, and while she was happily on the phone chatting to whoever, or busy inside the house, I'm not really all that interested. Her children used to say, can they come and talk to me? Can they come and play? Can they read to me? Will I teach them something? And that was okay. I loved the kids. But you can be with pure heart and pure intention, and not everybody else has the same intention. You don't think because you're doing good for somebody, or you're doing it for the sake of, i.e. the children, that can be misconstrued